Lucky enough to be joined by AJ Wilcox, founder and CEO at b2linked.com. I got that right, AJ, I hope?
Oh, perfect. Yep.
Perfect. He's going to tell us how LinkedIn is giving us all kinds of bad advice when it comes to our ads. AJ, take it away. Can't wait to hear all about it.
Awesome, Gary. Appreciate it. All right. So if any of you have had a rep on any platform, this information is probably not going to be too crazy to you, that your rep can give you pretty bad advice. But let's talk about it specifically. The little bit about me. I'm the founder of an agency called B2 Linked. As Gary said, we're an agency that LinkedIn ads is all we do. We're one trick ponies. After $150 million spent on LinkedIn ads, it's the one thing we do, and we do it well. And my interesting fact is, when I was little, I got my front teeth stuck in a basketball hoop as I was trying to do like a back jam off of a bucket. So anyway, my two front teeth are dead. Like, they're a slightly different color. It's crazy. Anyway, hopefully that was fun for everyone. All right. So we talked a little bit about how ad reps can make recommendations. They're usually, I'll say sometimes they're not in your very best interest. Usually behind the scenes, the reps are getting pressure from their bosses to push ad spend to new products or new features that are oftentimes untested, unproven, and you become the guinea pig. So that's not something we want. If your goal is to get the great performance from your ads, a lot of times it makes sense to just take their advice with a little bit of a grain of salt. So here are the things specifically that I want you to take with a grain of salt. First off, your LinkedIn reps will advise to bid higher. And they say that this is in an effort to get the right people. So let's say for an audience, let's say you're targeting managers and above. They say, well, yeah, if your audience is manager and above and you're bidding $10 per click, you're only going to be getting the managers for that amount. You're going to need to bid more like 14 or 15 or 18 or 25 or whatever to get access to more of the C-level people. Time and time again, when we've tested, we find that this is absolutely wrong. It can be just as inexpensive or even less expensive to reach someone in the C-suite than it is to reach a manager or than it is to reach a director, all because of how your ads perform. So it really comes down to ad performance. It doesn't come down to bids unless your ads are performing poorly. Here are the other things too. They want you to turn on your audience expansion, which comes enabled by default. So when you disable it, they'll send you emails and stuff and say, like, we noticed your audience expansion is off. They'll tell you that you need bigger budgets than you may be. I mean, I don't know why they're willing to tell someone that they need a bigger budget when they're told by their boss what their budget is. Like, you can't force someone to have a larger budget than they have, but LinkedIn tries. They also tell you that you need to have large audience sizes. And if you don't have a large enough audience size, put people in your audience that doesn't matter. Obviously not great. They also tell you don't pause your ads. Things like on LinkedIn, we have these traffic patterns that make a lot of sense. A lot of times when your sales rep is only there during business hours, you may want to shut your ads off after business hours so that you're not letting these leads come in and be cold. So we'll go specifically into each one. So LinkedIn's saying you need to bid aggressively to hit the right people. We talked about why this is false. What you do in this case is create separate audiences. So one campaign specifically for managers, one for directors, one for VP, and one for C-level or C-level and partner and owner. And you can set individual bids on each of those. Now, if it turns out that, yes, you do need a higher bid to reach VPs and above, great. Put those higher bids on the campaigns that are specifically to those audiences, and on the manager and director ones, maybe you don't have to bid as high. So it just gives you a little bit more control. If you are going to bid high, sure, you may be reaching the right people, but you could have reached the right people without having to bid high and have your budget disappear so fast. The next one is audience expansion. A member on my team named Eric Jones, he wrote this haiku. I don't know if you guys are into poetry, but I thought this was really funny. The haiku says, shows my ad to those outside defined targeting. That's dumb, really dumb. Thanks, Eric, for that. Basically, audience expansion is turned on by default on every campaign that you start. You always have to go and uncheck it. And I believe that the audience expansion is the COVID-19 of LinkedIn ads. It's the one thing that you need to keep 6 feet away or 2 meters away or whatever. Like it's bad. We have not found a single case when having audience expansion on improved results. It always deproved them. Okay, next is you need a bigger budget. LinkedIn wants you to spend more. It's obvious why they want you to spend more. Oftentimes they are gold or receive bonuses based off of accounts in their portfolio growing their ad spend. So of course it's in the rep's best interest to tell you to expand your budgets, but it's not in your best interest. Like the only reason that you should increase your budget is if you're seeing good success and want to continue to expand, or if your boss says like, hey, you now have additional budget. It shouldn't be up to the platform. So take that one with a grain of salt. LinkedIn also tells you that you need audiences that are larger than 300,000 people. They even in the last 2 months implemented a little message that when you fall below 50,000 people, they put a red message up that says your campaign's in danger if you're targeting fewer than 50,000. Of course, LinkedIn likes larger audiences, and the dirty little secret is the larger the audience, the more likely it is that you're actually going to spend the budget that you have, which is their top goal. Their top goal is to get your budget. But that's not something that you should be caring about. You should be wanting to show your ads to specific qualified audiences. My recommendation is don't ever expand your audience unnecessarily to people who are not part of your target audience just because you're trying to hit some arbitrary number. We definitely recommend audience sizes that are between about 20,000 to 80,000 people. We find if you're targeting under 20,000, then oftentimes you're not going to spend very much to make the campaign worth running and managing and all that. But if you have a highly targeted audience, let's say it's like an account-based marketing audience of those who are your absolute ideal customers, like there's no reason to expand that. You can of course keep it on a steady, slow drip. If your audience sizes are above about 80,000, it's really easy at that point to break that audience up into 2 or 3 that you can speak more specifically to that audience or control budgets like we talked about earlier. And by the way, you can have an audience all the way down to 300 people. Of course, LinkedIn doesn't want you to target 300 people because it's not going to spend very much, but it's totally under your control. All right, last one here, the last hot take. LinkedIn doesn't want you to pause your ads. They warn you that if you ever pause your ads, you reset your relevancy score, which is kind of the score you have as an advertiser that shows whether you should get low cost clicks or high cost, or whether they should show you a lot or not show you at all. So LinkedIn will kind of warn you against this. Obviously, it's in their best interest that your ads stay on all the time because you're going to spend more money. But I would tell you, if you find certain days or certain hours of the day that don't perform, don't feel like you need to keep spending money during those hours just to hit some arbitrary metric that LinkedIn has. It's even if they do reset your relevancy score, you'll probably get it back if your ads continue to perform well. So keep your ads fresh and new regularly so that people are going to continue to click on them. If you leave the same ads for like a month or more, oftentimes those will start to saturate because people have seen it before and they stop paying attention. So takeaway actions. If you have an account open right now, go disable audience expansion on every campaign you have immediately. Set budgets where you are comfortable with. Set audience sizes that make sense for your audience and don't unnecessarily embiggen them. Pause ads on days that you don't want to advertise. And stop feeling pressure from the ad reps to make changes that don't make sense. And with that being said, the one key takeaway here is audience expansion is the COVID-19 of LinkedIn ads. So definitely make sure you always disable that. If you are interested in LinkedIn ads, I would highly recommend listen to the podcast. I'm the host. It's called the LinkedIn Ads Show. We go into a lot of depth about LinkedIn ads. We get really nerdy. So if like this is like medium level nerdy, if you want to see like high level nerdy, go check out the podcast. It's easy to find. Just search for LinkedIn ads, and we're probably going to be the first ones to pop up. Okay, that being said, Q&A time. Bring it on. Any questions you've got?
That was super awesome. AJ, lots of people sharing comments in the chat. And listen, I guess, it's obvious why they have these recommendations, right? Like there's incentives that cross purposes going on, right?
Yes.
But are there any times where these tips that they typically give are actually the right tips?
That's a good question. If an advertiser has really big like hopes and dreams of advertising, and they make their targeting way too tight, they get down to an audience size of like 5,000 people, and they have a $5,000 a month budget, like not good things are going to happen. They're not going to get nearly the volume they were hoping. A lot of times they're going to leave and tell people like, LinkedIn ads don't work. I went after my target audience and I didn't even spend any money. So they obviously don't want that to happen. So there is some wisdom in making sure that your audiences are large enough. That being said, if you're an advanced enough marketer that you've used the platform a little bit, like their tips, they're trying to give them to very basic advertisers. But if you're not a basic advertiser, you can pretty safely ignore them and kind of go your own way.
Cool. So Carol said, "Hey, can you comment on boosted posts? Do you have a POV on boosted posts?"
I do. So boosted posts they're difficult. On one hand, the thing that they do really, really well is they take content that already has social proof. It already has likes and comments, and even shares. So when you go to boost these to people, they're going to appear in their news feed, and they're going to be a lot more likely to be like, oh, this company must be legit. Yeah, I'll interact with this. So that's the huge positive. The big negative, though, is that we in B2B, we need to carry data through for tracking and attribution. And if we have an organic post on our company page that has tags that show that it's an organic post, or maybe doesn't even have tracking parameters in it at all, that means when someone goes and becomes a prospect, they fill out a form through that link, we're not going to be able to tag them in the CRM as like, this person came from LinkedIn, they came from this specific ad. So it makes tracking a lot more difficult, which is unfortunate. So for right now, we have to choose. Do you want the tracking data and attribution, or do you want the social proof? In the future, LinkedIn tells me that they're going to have the ability to do dynamic UTM parameters. And so that means any post, you can replace the tracking parameters in it. That's what I'm waiting for. We're going to get the best of both worlds. We can boost a post and get tracking parameters that tell the CRM what ad they saw.
Awesome. Good to know. Antonio, his question is, smaller audiences usually mean an increase in costs. Does it make sense to go a bit broader just for the sake of help from the algorithm and reduce costs?
Maybe, but I mean, if you're doing something like, if you're letting a whole bunch of people in who are not relevant at all, obviously that's not going to help. If you let people in who are maybe tangentially relevant to help bring down costs, I mean, these are tests you can run. You can run the two campaigns one after another and see, based off of the same bid for both, does one not spend your budget at all and one overspend it? So there is a break-even point at some point. You just have to find it for your audience and your ads.
Awesome. I guess in terms of getting started with LinkedIn ads, maybe smaller company doesn't have a budget for an agency. They want to get started. Obviously, they're not getting a LinkedIn rep day one, so they're probably not getting this bad advice. But where do they go to figure out how to dip their toe?
Oh, I've got a really good resource for you. The URL is b2linked.com. It's our website /checklist. It's the same checklist that we give to all of our new clients who are onboarding. It's the steps, everything that you need in order to get your account set up and running properly. There's the basics of everything that you need before you can even start advertising. There's a bunch of other things that are like, now here are the things you want to make sure you have to make it even better. And this guide is 100% free. So go enjoy that one. It's a good resource.
Awesome. AJ, we are at time. This was a super interesting, super entertaining session. Really appreciate you being here. For everyone listening, thank you so much for participating on the marketing track of this edition of Hot Takes Live. The event continues. There are 2 more sessions starting like right now with a former colleague of mine, Mo Zahid from Hootsuite. It's going to be super entertaining. Head over to stage 1 and check that out. Again, thanks everyone for participating. AJ, thank you so much for being part of this. We'll see everybody again next time.
Thanks, Gary. Happy advertising.
Thank you.